Good morning. Happy Sunday. I'm going to walk you through a few things from this weekend's readings. In the first reading, Peter talks about David's tomb, and it is there. It is still there. This is a picture of it and how it used to be. This is from what I remember when I was there in '94. You had total access, and there was no division. There is a connection actually today between David's tomb and Emmaus, which we'll talk about a little bit later. So this is what it looks like from a few years back, and this is what it looks like now. As you look over here on this side here, you see this little fence. And what that does is the fence divides the area. For one side is men, as you can see this guy praying over here. Then the other side is for women, kind of like at the Western Wall, where there's a gate that separates the men's side from the women's side. I'm not sure why they decided to do that, but that's how it is now. So as we, this is kind of awkward, and my tech skills are pretty poor. I need to get out of this. And as you look here, you'll see that David's tomb is right there in the green, and it's outside the city walls. If you look a little bit higher up, you'll see Zion Gate, which is the entrance to the Armenian quarter, to the old city. And so David's tomb is there. It's outside the church, and it's just by the Dormition Abbey, which is a beautiful church that marks when Mary died, and then the Dormition is what the Eastern Church calls that event. I gotta get back to the other one. No. So, in the story today with on the road to Emmaus, we hear of Jesus and we hear how he meets his two of his disciples who are walking on the road to Emmaus. And the most likely place for Emmaus is the town of Abu Ghosh, or in Hebrew, Kiriath Jearim, which is an Arab city in Israel. And as you can see here, this beautiful mosque that is in the town of Kiriath Jearim, or Abu Ghosh, depending on if you want to go by the Arab name or the Hebrew name. And as we, there are, like I said, there are several sites that vie for the title of Emmaus. There isn't a town in Israel right now that is called Emmaus. But Kiriath Jearim is the most likely place. And if you were to look at the map to walk to it, and then this is a bit cloudy because I had to stretch it out. You can see Jerusalem down here, and then as you go west, you find yourself to Abu Ghosh and the town of Kiriath Jearim. Now the connection with David, as I mentioned earlier, is when the Ark of the Covenant, which is where the tablets of the Ten Commandments were carried, and it went with the people, and that was a very important object, obviously, for them, a religious object. When it was taken by the Philistines, they had it for a while, and it's a really interesting story in 1 Samuel. when they send it back, because it caused nothing but problems for them, the Ark of the Covenant resided at Kiriath Jearim for a long time. And then when David took the city of Jerusalem from the Jebusites, he decided that he would bring the Ark of the Covenant from Kiriath Jearim back to Jerusalem. And then, of course, Solomon built the temple where then the Ark was put. And the Ark was intended to be a portable thing. It was never intended to be, for lack of a better word, an object of permanence. And so there's some interesting factors that go into that. So as Jesus is walking from Jerusalem to Emmaus, he encounters two of his disciples in the story that we hear today in the gospel. And what that story really boils down to is it's really a model for our liturgy. There's movement, they're on pilgrimage, they're going somewhere. Jesus tells them the salvation history story as they're walking. And then as they get to Kiriath Jearim, or Emmaus, or Abu Ghosh, Jesus plans to keep on going, and they say, "Stay with us, for it is evening." And then, as you know, as they recline at table and they break the bread, they recognize him. And it's just what we do when we come together on Sunday, is we hear the story of salvation history, little pieces at a time as the Sunday after Sunday goes on. And then we come to the table and recognize Jesus in the breaking of the bread and the sharing of the cup. And the beautiful thing, too, is that even though those two disciples didn't know it, Jesus was walking with them the entire time. And that's what's happening in this unprecedented time we're living in right now, is even though we feel like we're separated, Jesus continues to walk with us, even if we don't recognize him. So here's an image, it's kind of cloudy once again, of the monastery that marks the church at Abu Ghosh, and the acoustics in here are amazing. So remember, everybody, that Jesus continues to walk with us. He continues to feed us. He continues to nourish us. So even though, as you probably read in the paper, there's some talk about opening things back up in early May, it still may be too soon. But we'll continue that conversation. I hope you have a blessed Sunday.